Welcome, YouTubers, to another episode in my Grammar Hero series. In today's video, I'm going to be working out 10 very easy practice test questions that should closely mirror what you should expect to see in the math sections of both the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, that is the ASVAB, as well as the pre-screening Internet Delivered Computer Adaptive Test. In order to get the most from this video, of course, you'll want to pause the video after I read a practice test question, attempt to work the question out yourself, and then resume playing the video to check your solution. In light of the fact that these are very easy practice test questions, I believe you should be able to answer all 10 of these questions quickly and easily. In the event that you did not answer all 10 of these questions quickly, that means you need to review the topics that are being tested. In the description of this video, I'll associate each question with timestamps. Next to the timestamp will be the topic that the question's testing, as well as a link to one of my videos where you can learn more about that topic. In addition to having those timestamps in the description of this video, I'll also have a link to my playlist called Free ASVAB PiCAT Math Bootcamp. It has more than 500 practice test questions, and if you work through this playlist from start to finish, you will be exceptionally well prepared for both the ASVAB and PiCAT. As a matter of fact, in my view, there's really no reason to reach out to an ASVAB coach, whatever that is, or to spend any money on test prep materials if you work through this playlist. This playlist covers the ins and outs of both arithmetic reasoning and math knowledge. If you go through this playlist and you understand how to solve these problems, you will be fine on test day. Finally, I want to mention this. On the actual ASVAB and PiCAT, you will not be permitted to use a reference sheet or a calculator. So as you work your way through these 10 easy practice test questions, try not to use any of those resources. And with all that finally being said, let's go ahead and get started with these practice test questions. All right, so this first question says, what is 5 to the x power when x is 3? So we're trying to solve this. 5 to the x power when x equals 3. For this one, we're going to be evaluating this expression for x equaling 3. So we're just going to substitute 3 in for x right there. This becomes 5 to the third power. 5 to the third power means you're going to take 5 and you're going to multiply by itself 3 times. Of course, you should know that 5 times 5 is 25. What is 25 times 5? Well, if you didn't know that, you could always work it off to the side. We have 25 times 5. Again, 5 times 5 is 25, carry a 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So 5 to the third power, which is the same thing as 5 times 5 times 5, is 125, which is answer choice D. All right, so number 2 says, if a circle has a diameter of 91 units, how many units is its radius? So for this one, you have to know this relationship between the diameter and radius of a circle. Notably, you have to know that in all circles, the diameter D is always twice as long as the radius. In other words, D is equal to 2R. Now it's just a matter of plugging values in and solving for what we're missing. In this case, we were told our circle has a diameter of 91. So we know D in this case is going to be 91. And we want to know how many units the radius is. So we're going to be solving for R. So let's substitute 91 in for D. This becomes 91 equals 2R. Again, we're solving for radius, so we're going to divide both sides by 2 now. In doing so, this crosses out, leaving you with just R on this side. Clearly, R is equal to 91 over 2, which is not an answer choice. So we're going to have to read this as long division. As long division, we read this as 91 divided by 2. All right, so let's go ahead and do this long division now. It's very easy and simple. 2 goes into 9 4 times without going over. Given that 2 times 4 is 8, 9 minus 8 is 1. Let's go ahead and drop down this 1 now. 2 goes into 11 5 times without going over. 2 times 5 is 10, of course. 11 minus 10 is 1. Since we don't have any other numbers we can use, we have to add a decimal and a 0 placeholder. Once I add that decimal in, I'm going to bring it up into my answer, and now I can drop down this 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. Of course, 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 minus 10 is 0. Since I hit a remainder of 0, I know I'm done doing this long division. Now I know that radius is 45.5. Of course, in math, we usually write the variable for which we solved on the left, so this is r equals 45.5. Of course, that is answer choice D in this case. Number 3 here says, if the area of a rectangle is 180 square inches, then x equals. So for this problem, we were told that the area of our rectangle is 180 square inches. And since we're dealing with the area of a rectangle, I'm going to quickly write down that formula. To find the area of a rectangle, it's simply length times width. And if we look at our figure to the right, you can see that our width is x and our length is 20. We're being asked to solve for x, so we're being asked to figure out what the width of this rectangle is. That's pretty easy to do. Again, since we know it has an area of 180, I can plug in 180 for a. We know our length is 20, and we know our width is x. So all we have to do is solve this equation here for x. Of course, that's going to require me to divide both sides by 20 to cross that out and get x by itself on that side. And right here we have 180 divided by 20. And as it happens, this math is very simple and easy to do. We can cross out these corresponding zeros, which leaves us with 18 over 2. You should know that 18 over 2 is 9, so x in this case is simply 9. All right, so the correct answer to this one is C, 9. All right, so number 4 says this, if 16 equals x over 20, then x equals. So we're being asked to solve this equation for x. 16 equals x over 20. Some people see this problem a little bit easier when they rewrite it. Again, there's technically an imaginary 1 in front of this x, so I can actually rewrite this like this. 16 equals 1 over 20 times x. Of course, to get x by itself, we got to get rid of this 1 over 20 in front of it. To do that, we're going to multiply both sides of this equation by the reciprocal of 1 over 20, which is 20 over 1. In doing so, we get to cross this out, which just leaves us with x on this side. And let's think about what's going on here. We have 20 over 1 times 16. What is 20 over 1, or 20 divided by 1? 20 divided by 1 is just 20. So this is 20 times 16. All right, so now we just got to do a little bit of arithmetic to figure this one out. And I'm going to do this off to the side so as not to make any mistakes. We have 20 times 16. Let's start right here. 0 times 6 is 0. 6 times 2 is 12. Before we start multiplication with that 1, we have to bring in a 0 placeholder. 1 times 0, of course, is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. Let's add these together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So x in this case is 320. And of course, in math, it's customary to write the variable for which you solved on the left. So x equals 320. Of course, this is answer choice C. All right, so number 5 says, what is 3a squared plus a squared added to a plus 6? In case it's not obvious, you're being asked to add two polynomials together. This 3a squared plus a squared is one of our polynomials, and this a plus 6, and let me make that a little bit better, is one of our other polynomials. So if it's helpful, you can add these using parentheses like this, 3a squared plus a squared. That's our first polynomial, and to that we're adding a plus 6. Again, this addition sign really doesn't change anything, so we could go ahead and drop those parentheses. This is 3a squared plus a squared plus a plus 6. All right, of course, this isn't one of our answer choices because we have to simplify this expression by combining like terms. What are like terms? Like terms have the same letter variables raised to the same power. So for a squared, we have the letter variable a raised to the second power. Its corresponding like term is right here. It's a raised to the second power. 3a squared plus a squared is 4a squared. Now that I combine those like terms, so I'm going to cross them out. Then we have the letter variable a, which has no corresponding like term, and 6, which has no corresponding like term. So this one is 4a squared plus a plus 6, which you can see is answer choice C in this case. All right, so number 6 says this, -25 minus 8. So many of you could do this one without having to do any work whatsoever. You would say -25 minus 8 is going to be -33. That said, if you got stuck on this one, you could always use a number line to quickly figure it out. Again, we're starting at -25. Let me add some values to this number line. This is -24. This is -23. This is -26. -27. -28, -29, -30, -31, -32, -33. All right, so this is -25 minus 8. So we're going to go to -25, which is right here. And we're going to subtract 8 from that. Well, subtraction goes this way, whereas addition goes this way on a number line. So since we're doing subtraction, -8, we're going to go this way 8 spaces. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And as you can see, when you subtract 8 from -25, that gets you right to -33. So number 7 says, what is the volume of a shoebox that has a length of 10 inches, a width of 7 inches, and a height of 5.5 inches? So a shoebox is in the shape of a rectangular prism. To find the volume of a rectangular prism, the formula is very simple. It's length times width times height. In this case, we know what these values are. We know our shoebox has a length of 10, a width of 7, and a height of 5.5. So let's plug those values into our formula. This becomes 10 times 7 times 5.5. This first part's very easy to do. 10 times 7 is 70. So this becomes 70 times 5.5. So at this point, you have a choice as to how you want to proceed. You can do this math involving the mixed number and the whole number, or you can convert 5.5 to a decimal as 5.5. I'm going to do this work involving the fraction. So to proceed, and I'm going to do this off to the side, by the way, I'm going to convert 5.5 to an improper fraction. So this is going to be 70 times. How do I convert 5.5 to an improper fraction? Well, I know my denominator of 2 is not going to change. To find my numerator, it's going to be 5 times 2, which is 10, plus 1, which is 11. So this is 70 times 11 over 2. Of course, we're now multiplying a whole number by a fraction. To proceed, I'm going to write 70 as a fraction by placing it over 1. Now I'm just multiplying two fractions, which means I'm going to multiply straight across. Of course, if you want to make this math a little bit easier to do, you could always do this. You can say 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 70 35 times. So what do we have here now? We have 35 over 1 times 11 over 1. 35 divided by 1 is just 35. 11 divided by 1 is just 11. So all we have to do is work out 35 times 11 now. And that's going to look like this. 35 times 11. 5 times 1, of course, is 5. 3 times 1 is 3. Before we start multiplication with that 1, we're going to bring in a 0 placeholder. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. Let's add these together now. 5 plus 0 is 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. 3 plus nothing is 3. So the volume of this shoebox that has a length of 10, a width of 7, and a height of 5.5 is 385 cubic inches, which you can see is answer choice D. All right, so number 8 says if 1/3 times 2/4 equals x, then x equals. So we have 1/3 times 2/4 equaling x. To get x, of course, you can see that we're just going to multiply these two fractions together. When you multiply two fractions together, you just multiply straight across. So this becomes 1 times 2/3 times 4 equals x. 1 times 2 is 2, 3 times 4 is 12. So this is x equals 2/12. Of course, that's not one of our answer choices because we can reduce this. More specifically, we can divide 2 and 12 by a common factor of 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So x in this case is 1/6, which is answer choice A. All right, so number 9 says this. If the triangle has an area of 75 square centimeters, then x equals. So for this problem, we're told that our triangle has an area of 75 square centimeters. Of course, since we're dealing with the area of a triangle, we also know that we're going to need this formula. To find the area of any triangle, its area equals 1/2 times base times the height of a triangle. And what do we have in this figure? Well, we have a right triangle, so we know that this 10 is going to be our base, and this x is going to be our height. So let's plug those values in accordingly. Again, we know that this triangle has an area of 75 square centimeters according to the problem. So I'm going to substitute 75 in for A. This becomes 75 equals 1/2 times 10 times x. All right, so we're just going to be solving this equation for x now. This is 75 equals, what's 1/2 times 10? 1/2 of 10 is 5, so this is 75 equals 5 times x. Of course, we want to get x by itself, so we're going to divide both sides of this equation by 5 now. This crosses out, leaving you with just x on this side. What is 75 divided by 5? If you can't do that mentally, you could always do it off to the side. Again, I can read this as long division like this. 75 divided by 5. 5 goes into 7 one time without going over. 5 times 1 is 5, of course. 7 minus 5 is 2. Drop down this 5. 5 times 5 is exactly 25. And since I hit that 0, I know there's no remainder, and I'm done doing this long division. So x in this case is simply 15, which is answer choice C. All right, so number 10 says this. What is the slope of the line y equals negative 2x plus 3? So we're given this equation of a line y equals negative 2x plus 3. And you should recognize that this equation is given to you in slope-intercept form. What is slope-intercept form? It's y equals mx plus b, where b is your y-intercept and m is the slope of your line. Well, in this case, we're being asked to find the slope of y equals negative 2x plus 3. Clearly, you should be able to identify that m in this case, your slope, is negative 2. So the correct answer to this one is C. All right, so that is it for this video. As always, you're more than welcome to leave feedback in the comment section below. And as usual, I hope you found this video helpful. Truthfully, these questions represent how easy the ASVAB and PiCAT are, especially in the beginning of those tests. So for that reason, I believe you should have been able to answer all 10 of these questions fairly easily on your own. That said, you may have noticed that in the description of this video, I have timestamps associated with each of these questions. Of course, next to the timestamp is the topic that's being tested, as well as a link to one of my videos where you can learn more about that topic. So if you struggled with anything in this video, please check out those links in the description. They will help you out tremendously. If you want to help my channel out, you can do one of two things. One, you can, of course, subscribe to my channel if you like my content. And two, you're more than welcome to share links to these videos on social media. including on Facebook and Twitter. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose.
Konnichiwa.